Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to another replay. This one sent in by a tiny YouTube channel called Bacon Gaming. Bacon, thanks for sharing one of your better, Merkava gameplays with me. I decided not to keep this tank, so it's time for some regret, shall we? I'm actually pretty happy with my rewards from the event. But here you see me trying to get some interesting cinematic intros. And what do we have but a big old TV screen? Anyway, here is the Merkava, piloted by Bacon Gaming. And our buddy Bacon is going to have a great match today. You might be able to hear little snippets of Super Truck in the background, which is... Guppy, can you say Super Truck? No, she cannot say Super Truck. She's busy doing... It looks like she's cooking some beads right now. Yeah, can you say beads? Beads, yeah. In the meantime, you can hear some presumably American helicopters behind Bacon. Not a big surprise. Helicopters popular at top tier, although their effectiveness seems to vary, especially if they don't have ATGMs to spam out. Well, I have other places where I talk about helicopters. Today, it's about Bacon. And he's going to show you how a proper British boy plays the Merkava. This is actually a good tank for someone familiar with British high-tier tanks to play, because it is very similar in its role to that of, say, a chieftain. And I believe that will be fairly well demonstrated today. The Merkava has a great gun with a solid AP FSDS lawn dart to chuck at enemies at high speed out of its 105mm cannon. Something that is painfully familiar to anyone that plays high tier in anything other than a Soviet vehicle, where the Soviet bloc had something a little bit different going on, or I should say the Warsaw Pact countries, I suppose, by this time. Anyway, the Cold War is over, but things are heating up for Bacon as he takes his first shot from debouches, and that is a familiar scene. Being shot through bushes by a bush Wookiee enemy tank. You can't even identify what it is. Looks like some kind of leopard. Thank you, baby. Yeah, try. Yeah, you want to try. I think she wants to draw. Here, draw with this. You can draw with this. Ready? See? Draw. Okay, had to put the toddler down, and Bacon puts down his first enemy, having nicely flanked that enemy tank that must have ducked behind hard cover to avoid revenge from Bacon's return fire, and ended up not paying enough attention to the fact that their opponent might be flanking around. And that comes into my advice when you're playing high tier, or if you want to do well in just about any level of War Thunder ground gameplay, even in the air. Turn off your background music, turn off my video in the background, or maybe mute it and just keep it playing so I can get the watch time. Just kidding. I don't care about watch time. I don't monetize anything, so it doesn't matter. But listen to your surroundings. So just have a listen. An ATGM, artillery going off in the distance, Bacon repositioning a small bit, checking his surroundings, but listening. No enemy engines, no sounds of enemy gunfire. All of these are things you can hear if you're wearing a good pair of headphones. He decides to peek and is rewarded with sight on an enemy tank. Hit to the engine. He checks his situation, almost backs into cover, but then decides to stay because the enemy is behind some bushes. He won't have a good sight on Bacon, and Bacon is aware of where that enemy is stuck. Another shot goes into the turret. Bacon almost reflexively backing, and then realizes it's going to take one more. And indeed, he takes down that Leopard variant with his, what, 5th shot into the vehicle? But that first crippling shot was effective at immobilizing the enemy, and then his opponent was not able to get onto target because he happened to stop behind some bushes. So, very nicely done there. Back to the listening game. Oh, no, maybe not. Okay, let's have a listen. Explosions on the right side. Sounds like artillery. Yep, artillery. No enemy vehicles so far. Ah, artillery striking off to his left and rear. Machine gun off to the right. Good time to check the map. That's not something that I have up on the screen right now, but Bacon being very second mouse right now. Very Cash Money's strategy for top tier. You see a lot of this camping, and it does pay off at high tier, and Bacon is doing it properly. And I don't use camping in a derogatory term here. It really is the way to play high tier. As you can see, it pays off. Bacon getting a couple of hits into enemy vehicles, not enough to critically damage or destroy them, but he plays British tanks all the time, so he's used to not killing someone in one hit. Backs away to avoid the attention of those enemies, and they start to give in his direction. That Gepard, perhaps on low quality video settings, as he seems to have tried to shoot Bacon through the building, which would be one of those effects you have if you turn down the render distance. So that Gepard, yeah, I'm going to go ahead with guessing that he doesn't even see the building that Bacon is hiding behind because he has the low graphics settings on. Now that's something that I don't complain about when I'm in the game. I've made it a point myself to never complain when somebody's using ULQ if I think that's what they're doing. It's a setting that exists in the game. It does have its clear advantages, but as someone who has played the game on ULQ on a potato PC, and someone who's tried playing the game on ULQ at 120 frames per second, I tell you that the advantages and disadvantages sort of even out. And it does suck to get shot through some bushes, but it also sucks to not even know if someone's hiding behind solid cover, because that cover doesn't render in. So there is something of a balance to the force when it comes to ULQ. It's a thing, it exists in the game. And now, Bacon, having either presumed that he's going to be flanked by those two people he attacked, or heard their engines in the background as I was rambling off about ULQ, has turned around and dispatched an M48 and a Gepard. Always happy to see a Gepard die. They are one of the most effective AA vehicles in the game, effective at anti-tanking, highly effective at shutting down the skies, and as someone who loves to fly CAS and avoids these battle ratings for reason of vehicles like the Gepard, I greatly appreciate seeing them expire. Bacon with a nice shot into an RU-251, a light tank at 6-7 battle rating that is still viable at this BR, but the heat FS of the RU-251 is just not the kind of thing that's going to be effective against the Merkava. This is one of the most heat FS resistant vehicles in the game, especially considering that it's essentially a medium tank. So, further positionings here. Bacon checking his map, deciding where to go next. You can see that he's not aggressively pushing the enemy spawn, but he's keeping himself in a position where he can be aware of the enemy path of travel. It's best to ambush someone just outside of their spawn, as opposed to trying to set yourself up in a position to have direct sight to the enemy spawn point, because especially at high tier, players are aware of that strategy, and there are many counters to deal with it. One of them you hear overhead, moving from left to right, so that's probably an enemy jet. Not an issue yet for Bacon, but we shall see how things transpire. Already, the armor and the protection value of the... I keep on wanting to call this a Magach, but this is a Merkava. Has proven itself as Bacon has taken... Whoa, excuse me there, that's something of a tongue twister. Bacon has taken several hits, but received no significant damage to the vehicle, at least from what I can see in my view here. Nothing that will cripple him in an engagement, and that is rather impressive. Bacon, for the first time, I believe, calling in an artillery strike. Constantly reminded that he could take this opportunity to repair his coaxial machine gun. I don't think that's going to be an issue. Is it the coax, or is it one of the bevy of support machine guns mounted to the roof of the Merkava? Love me some Israeli tank design. American tanks with their mounted machine guns on top, and Israeli tanks understanding the threat of infantry and, well, not so much low-flying aircraft, I'm thinking. These are probably more in the line of anti-infantry guns, especially for an urban situation where it is expected that Israeli tanks would be ambushed by close-in attacks from the natives. Israel's neighbors exclusively being hostile toward them, either overtly or covertly, have designed their vehicles for, well, let's say a realistic scenario where the local populace is not friendly, and demonstrating his ill contentment toward the enemy. Bacon makes another shot into, what even was that? Some sort of Soviet object, an RU-251? I'm not quite sure. As we hear jets playing their deadly game overhead, it sounds like a couple of them. And again, I don't have the map up for you guys, because that's just a bit of clutter right now. But that would be interesting to know as well. I'm always interested in top tier or high tier CAS situations and mixed battles, because I've just had a horrible time. It was an RU-251, tried to get the jump on Bacon, and with no stabilizer, he didn't really stand a chance. Bacon, listening to hear that enemy, which direction he was flanking around, had the turret ready for him by the time he got eyes on his target. So, with the good meta, with his ears on, you can really tell, if you take nothing away from this vehicle, take away that listening intently for the sounds of battle around you pays off in shovelfuls, in spades. So, another enemy vehicle. You can tell they're starting to get a bit desperate, yeah? Mr. Sonderkraftfahrzeug, the enemy attempting to do anything. Harvest spawn points, capture a zone, be derpy. I do not know, because the hull break on that Sonderkraftfahrzeug spelled the end for him. And Bacon, taking a shot into his side armor, gets taken down by none other than a Jagdtiger. Wow! What a display. But look at that. He definitely had a good match here. And what is Bacon going to spawn into next? Well, I'll just let you know ahead of time. The rest of the match not going to be so good for him. But look at that number of kills. A great result, especially at high tier in the Merkava. Bacon, well done. Thanks for sending in the video. And as for you guys, feel free to send in those replays. It took me a while to get around to doing this one, and that's probably going to be the way that it is. I love featuring replays, especially for you guys who don't have big YouTube channels, but I also really appreciate the friendship that I have with Bacon. I think that's pretty neat that he gave me this replay to use, even though he very well could have used this in his video on the Merkava, which is definitely worth watching. He's demonstrated that he knows how to use the tank properly, and that puts him, I think, in the minority. So definitely feel free to check the description of this video below for a link to Bacon's talk on the Merkava. Anyway guys, I really enjoyed making this one, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.